So this presentation is about the journey to productivity. And so looking forward to the good stuff. So Esther, Jokae, if you can introduce yourselves.
So, as P said, this month has been about productivity. So we'll be presenting our own individual journeys to productivity, and hopefully there will be some things that can be shared, because productivity in general is not unique to Jokae or I, but we just hopefully be able to share what we have learned and hopefully how it can help you, and also how similar it could be or very different in terms of each person's productivity as well.
Yes, so that basically what you said, really. Each person's journey is different, so hopefully that we'll have something that we can learn from today. So the content for today's session, we're going to be looking at productivity. Esther will give you some information on her journey to productivity, and then it will come back to me. I will do the same, and then we'll both give you our takes on mindset, and there's some scriptures on productivity we'd like to share with you, and then we'll have an overview of how this relates to the ecclesia in the end.
Okay, so for those that do know or don't know, I started a business called Frontline Therapist. I registered my company, I believe, in 2016, but the idea of Frontline Therapist came in, I believe, April 2018. So yeah, who am I? I am 29. I am a citizen of the kingdom, and I have been one since age 16. I was born in Nigeria, specifically from the Igbo tribe. I am an only child. I'm married to my husband, Cadmus. I'm also a social worker, psychotherapist, and life coach. I'm a doctorate enthusiast, so I'm trained up to master's level and looking to start my doctorate next year. I guess my expertise, many would say, and I would say, is in mental health. And I guess following on from what Nicola talked about last week, I believe I'm called to bring healing and restoration, and I dream to advance research, policy, and make changes to that. Frontline Therapist 5 pillars are, and this is actually quite prophetic. Fred, I believe January of 2019 gave a prophecy to me about Frontline Therapists and talked about 5 pillars, and these are the 5 pillars that I believe Frontline Therapist is founded on. So I know for some people will be like, well, what is Frontline Therapist? I'm going to get there, but just talking about the backstory. So research, policy, education, practice, and service delivery, I believe, are the 5 pillars of Frontline Therapist. And right now I'm predominantly focused on, I guess, service delivery, and hopefully in the many years to come, I will be able to focus on the other 4 areas, and hopefully from next year, with the start of my doctorate, I can focus on the research part. So I want to talk to you about the journey so far. So as I said, in April 2018, I started to begin to be quite frustrated. I work in mental health. I work as a social worker. I'm also an approved mental health professional, which simply means I section people. So whenever you hear someone is being sectioned, there has to be someone like myself who goes through years of training to be able to, I guess, have that power to detain people and to deprive people of their liberty. So I've been doing that for a number of years, and I've also been counselling people for a number of years. And I found myself not being able to, probably because of just my capacity and time, really help people, I mean, particularly black people. And I felt frustrated because when I would refer them on to other services, they would send them right back to myself and be being very, very silly and say, oh, they should go to the mental health service. And it's like, well, the mental health service referred them to you, so why would you send them right back? And I then definitely felt like it was to do with they've got mental health issues, so other services wouldn't say so. So I was really frustrated because I just felt like a number of Black people, particularly, are not getting the support they deserve within the system, and there is not enough services outside to support them. So it began with a frustration, and that's normal. You're like, God, you know, somebody should create something. Why isn't there something out there? And God is like, why don't you create it? And you're like, oh, but I don't think I can. Blah 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 blah. I don't think I can do this. So I was looking around and looking to see who I can do this with. I wrote ebook completed because, funnily enough, I actually created an ebook last year. No, was it last year or the year after? I get confused with dates, actually, to be fair, because everything has happened so fast. So I think actually the ebook was done last year, and the year prior to that was when the frustration began. But I actually found somebody who was trying to do something similar. So I connected with that person in the hope of starting. And I don't know what happened. The person just fucked me. The person just ignored me. We were starting the process. So I think for a few months, I was a bit discouraged because I really didn't want to do this by myself. I didn't think I was capable of doing this by myself. And then I found myself in September going, you know what, I kind of think I need to. And I think the term frontline therapist came either September or April. I'm not even fully sure in those months. So yeah, September 2018, I began the socials. Frontline Therapist just began, following other kind of mental health platforms on social media. And then, the idea, I had a different iteration to what I currently have now. And then I remember December 2018, I was actually a bit unwell. And I just got this email. Bearing in mind, I wasn't really fully on social media like that. I don't even know. I was just like tweeting stuff, doing stuff. Even though during that period I had a few events that Jokae and Cadmus came to. And I just got an email and someone said, oh, I'm looking for a Black therapist. Can you help me? And I was like, I'm okay. I'll try. I didn't start yet. I was still trying to get my website done. I got someone in Pakistan to create my website, and that wasn't going well. So, so December 2018, that was very, very stressful trying to get a therapist, but I did. And that kind of started the journey. March 2019, the original idea that I had that I thought was too big, I started to form it again. So I started to seek funding. A number of people were very interested in what I was doing, wanting to invest, but wanting to take a part of my business. And I don't know, at that time, I just felt like, no, I don't need anyone to take equity from my business yet. I don't want to take investments if that's going to be the catch. Cut long story short, I applied for some funding. I didn't get one funding. I remember that day, I just thought, you know what, let me speak to Fred and ask him if I can borrow some money from fellowship. And funnily enough, he said yes. But I think 6 months ago, I broached the subject in a different way. I wasn't even seeking money then. And it was like, no. So it just happened at the right time. So when I called, Fred was like, yeah, I'll talk about it with people. And then, everybody agreed. And I borrowed $2,000 sometime, I think, in June. And I started the journey. So all of the pre-stuff I had to do from June till October, getting my website done, making connections with the various stakeholders. So the actual thing that I'm actually currently doing basically is I provide affordable counseling to Black and Asian people all over the world now, because I have people all over the world seeking counseling. And in the last several months, it's evolved into a platform. So it won't just be counseling I provide. And with the launch of my new website yesterday, I actually provide any ebooks and planners to help people on their journey to mental health goodness, or to mental wellness. So in January of 2020, I launched the low-cost counseling service, which is our flagship service. So up until from June till basically January, it was all of the pre-set up processes. So the money that I borrowed from fellowship was to help to set everything up. And I started with 8 counselors. So I started doing the interview processes in, I think, November, and I started to get clients booking from October. Now, March 2020, COVID hit, and I think, from March to a bit mid-April, I honestly had like a breakdown going, God, this ain't going well. Everybody's canceling. I'm not getting any assessments. What do? I just started to become desperate. I feel like, oh my gosh, like this very thing. And bearing in mind, I probably was being quite melodramatic. Because in comparison to so many other businesses and services, I was still doing pretty good. I was still making profit. But because I just saw so many cancellations and I wasn't getting any bookings, I just started to panic. When you're at that point of precipice of like, I want to give up, and then the next day that something happens. I think it happened. I think I did a fast, I prayed about it, and then I can't tell you when, but end of April, oh my gosh, and since then the increase that have happened has been exponential. I'm actually currently inundated with assessments to the point where I'm not actually promoting much because I don't have any dates. Like I've had to open up August dates for assessments because I'm so booked up, which I am so thankful for. But it's just a funny 6 weeks since like April when I was sitting there crying, and now I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, "Oh, how am I going to have more assessment dates?" So I've got several paid influencers that are ready to promote, but I've held off because, again, like I said, I don't want people to come onto my website and be like, but I can't even book for next week. And as of right now, I have a social media manager that I pay. So I hope it wasn't too confusing, but that's kind of been my journey so far. Yeah, so this was my first website. So I'm forever grateful to the person that created my website. As we currently speak, I have 25 counselors and growing. I have I don't even know how many other counselors waiting to be interviewed. Again, the reason why it's even growing in this way is because I work full time, and this business is literally full time. So I can only squash all the things that I can do within the weekend. And obviously I'm married and, I've got other responsibilities. Right now I have over 200 plus assessments, booking since November 2019, and 60% of that comes from social media. So the power of social media is so important, and I probably say 40% comes from word of mouth. So word of mouth will always still be very, very, very important. Right now I'm looking for my own premises. So I'm actually looking to lease a premises. I've got my eye on one. Right now we're all remotely, so all my counselors are working, I guess, from home. So I'm able to save a lot of money because I'm paying very little overheads. And I have to be honest with you, COVID, apart from those few weeks of crisis that I had, that melodrama, COVID has done my business well. So the whole idea of crisis and finding opportunity in crisis has served my business. September we'll be getting an admin. I'm actually going to be getting admin much sooner. I'm going to have a meeting with my friend who's a financial coach after this. And she already said, Esther, why are you waiting until September? You need an admin now. And it's the whole idea of delegating and outsourcing. And I need to outsource because I'm very overwhelmed. And I'm hoping that December I will get a counselling manager to take over my role. And November I will start distributing my millennial planner. You can pre-order that on my website. And I said sometime next year be full-time entrepreneur, but it could be this year because I'm going to speak to my accountant this week and we're going to go through the numbers and decide when I will be working full time. So, literally in a year or even literally in 6 months, my life has completely changed. It is by no means easy at all, as I will continue to share throughout this presentation. I am currently working full time and I manage my business. In the most current month, my new website was launched yesterday. And I have had hundreds of donations following the Black Lives Matter protests because people want to support Black and Asian people to access counselling. And this is a pictures of my new website. So you can see the comparison between the dark kind of grey to bright green and orange. And one of the key things that you should not do when you start a business is not capture people's emails. I didn't capture anyone's emails. Like, in all honesty, people were coming to my website, I would get high traffic and I wasn't capturing their emails. And I was like, wait a minute, business 101. So as of now, when you go onto my website, if you want to download a free wellbeing pack, I can get your email. So again, this is just to show you an example of a really basic thing that I just missed because of the whole just the whole humbo jumbo of everything, and now I'm implementing in my current business. So before Jokae takes over, that is the picture of my ebook. So I will talk a little bit more throughout, but Jokae is going to now take over.
Hi everyone. So I am a soon-to-be first-time author of a children's book, which is called How We Love Our Hair. I'm also a founder of a new publishing company called an Epoch Publishing. Epoch meaning a distinct period of time. So about us. So How We Love Our Hair is a series of non-fiction books aimed at young girls and developed to simplify the current information available on Afro-textured hair. It is an introduction to hair care practices, a friendly guide with an activity that both parents and children can enjoy. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Jokae Ayula, and I have a bachelor's degree in communications and media studies at Brunel University. And back in 2008, I decided to write my dissertation on the politics of black hair and the revolutionary online natural hair movement. During that time, natural hair wasn't as prevalent as you see it today. It was very far and few in between. I actually had 2 ideas for a dissertation, and it was my white male university lecturer that said no, he prefers me to do a dissertation on black hair and thinks it will be more interesting, and that's the reason why I ended up doing my dissertation on it. With that being said, I am a hair enthusiast, and I have been, I think, all my life really, since I was very, very young. At the age of 9, I started cornrowing my own hair, taking my own hair into my own hands. By the age of 12, 13, I was already relaxing, using chemicals on my own hair, chemicals on my friend's hair, a lot of trials and errors there. I was braiding my own hair, braiding friends and family's hair, and friends of friends recommending me. By college and university, I was doing weave on in my own hair and in friends' hairs. And it wasn't until I started my natural hair journey, which is just to go back a bit, my hair was chemically treated from the age of 5. So my mum had used chemicals on my hair from a young age. So I didn't actually have fully natural hair again until I was in my second year of university. I always wanted to go natural, always thought natural hair was beautiful. I never had any problems with it, but it was the whole growing your hair out and cutting off your hair, which was the reason why it took me such a long time to go natural. So in my second year of university, I decided, okay, this is the time for me to go, because really I'm studying and I don't have much time for my hair, so let me just grow it out. So I decided to do that. And it was interesting because I got a lot of negative feedback from black women, and some I would say that they were more ignorant. So people asking me, why would I want to do that, or asking me, oh, I don't think your hair can go natural. This is actually a black woman telling me that they don't think my hair can go natural, or saying, oh, natural, I could never do that, or no, natural's not for me, or it doesn't look good, or what, just a lot of negative feedback. And I didn't actually realize how other people perceive natural hair, because personally, maybe because I never had it, I always saw it as something that was very beautiful. And growing up, I did the music artists that I would listen to would be people like Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill. So I always thought it was something positive. So as I was saying, I am a hair enthusiast with over a decade's worth of experience caring for Afro hair, and I do have a comprehensive knowledge of the best ways to look after Afro-textured hair using key principles. And a lot of this information came not only from my own trial and error, but from whilst I was researching during university, researching for my dissertation, because I was also embarking on my own hair journey. I had to start venturing out, reading books on hair care and joining online forums and watching videos. And this was also at the beginning of where people started to black women around the world started to make use of a lot of the online resources that were available. So basically in Western society, Afro-textured hair is the most unique of all races and the furthest away from a hegemonic standard of beauty. historically, its uniqueness has actually been used against Black people, particularly Black women. In key moments in history, such as the Civil Rights Movement and onwards, Black women have tried to regain their relationship with their hair. However, it has never been an easy journey, and much of this comes from identity issues within the Black diaspora, including on the continent of Africa, because you would think in Africa, Black hair would be seen as something positive. Today, yes, and a lot of that, surprisingly, is the influence of Western Black women, but there was a period of time where actually Black hair in Africa was associated with childhood or poverty. You were seen as being more educated or being more refined or more beautiful or attractive once you started using chemicals in your hair. It was also a sign of wealth as well, or when you started using weaves and extensions. So some of the negative terms related to Black hair from my research are Black hair is dirty, unmanageable, ugly, coarse, dry, short, does not grow, dreaded. Actually, the term dreadlocks came from the Europeans when they saw Black people with locks in their hair. They would call it the dreaded locks, and that's why you'll find certain people with locks don't actually like that term, dread. And yeah, so if we fast track, well, if we look at today's society, we can see that there's definitely a change. And a lot of this came about with the information age that we entered in the early 2000s. The online community became a place of information sharing, and Black women's lack of knowledge and insecurity with their hair found solitude in online forums. And in these forums, women were learning to care for their hair and also what it meant to accept your natural curls and kinks. Actually, when I joined forums back in, I think, 2006 or 2007, when I had my final chemical relaxer, and I remember joining forums at that time, which were very extreme. They wouldn't allow you to upload avatars of Black women with straight or weave or anything other than natural hair. And when I used to think it was quite extreme then, but I understand, because back then it wasn't common for Black women to have, even though like I said, there were Black women that still, or young Black women that still had natural hair, but sometimes you find that maybe they grew up and their mums told them not to put chemicals on their hair. But it was more known for you to either have weave in your hair or to chemically treat in your hair or to have some form of extensions. So yeah, fast track to present day, it has been a journey, but as we can, well, hopefully we can see that there's Black women are now wearing their own hair, and relaxer cells actually signify that this is definitely something that's taken place, because relaxers have actually rapidly declined in the last 5 to 7 years. So much so that companies had to rebrand themselves. So for example, when I was growing up, my mum used to use this relaxer brand called Just For Me, and it was a relaxer chemical box for young girls under the age of, I think, 11 or 12. And on the front cover, there was a picture of a beautiful African-American looking girl with long, luscious and relaxed hair. And this brand now had literally had to completely change their whole image. Their whole image now is organic ingredients, and they only cater for curly textured hair for young children. So you can imagine what impact the Black women's choices on their hair had economically on all these companies. And that goes into a whole nother thing, because when I was doing my dissertation, I did establish how, unlike any other race, Black women spend the most. Our hair industry is actually a multi-billion-dollar industry. Yet at that point, we weren't really making any of that money ourselves. That money was going into other communities. And what was quite interesting is when we did decide to start educating ourselves about our hair and taking our hair into our own hands, a lot of these other industries that were selling us things that were not necessarily healthy for our hair, they had to start adapting. So if you walk into hair shops now, you'll see that they have more natural ingredients, or they've had to basically adapt to the changes in the way we buy and sell, the way we purchase our products. So yeah, so why did I decide to do a book for young girls? So sorry, just bear with me. So yeah, my goal with this series is to change the narrative and to help young girls with Afro-textured hair love their hair whilst learning how to care for it. So even though we're in an age now where natural hair is so much more common, and a lot of young girls are not actually relaxing their hair, they're actually keeping their hair natural. What's quite interesting is there's still a lot of negative experiences that these young girls are having. And For example, I have friends that are very close to me that would seek hair advice from me, or would tell me about, and I know their daughters as well, that would tell me about some of the situations that happen for their young daughters when they go to school. One girl in particular, though she's raised in West London, she was going to a school where it's she's one of maybe 2 Black girls in her school. She goes to school in quite an affluent area, and she would get a lot of negativity towards her hair. Even her mum actually experienced the same questions from these kids about her daughter's hair when she came to pick her up from school. And so her daughter would say, "Mum, I hate my hair. I want to straighten my hair, or because my friend has chemically treated hair." She'd be like, "Oh, I want my hair to look like yours." And it would really hurt my friend because she has 3 daughters and they all have different hair textures, and she wants them all to love their hair. And so she even started looking at herself, like, what kind of representation am I showing my daughter if my hair's straight, and am I teaching her to hate herself? So I also had like some colleagues, for example, one of my colleagues at work, she would come and she'd ask me questions. That's actually how me and her became friends before we were merged into the same department, is because she would ask me questions about my hair, and then she started telling me about her daughter at that time, Adani, who completely didn't like her hair. Wanted to only wear extensions, and so there was different, and I even have a few other friends stories that I could tell you. So I just definitely knew that the work hasn't been done yet, and I know that there's a lot of work still to be done. And for some of the girls, I actually bought them books to try and help their confidence with hair, but I realized that these books were not doing what I would have hoped for them to do. And so that's where my idea of creating this book came about. Also because when it comes to Black representation in the Western side of the world, obviously we're a minority here, so we only make up Black characters in like stories. For example, we make up like 3%, and there's also we don't make up that much of a percentage when it comes to Black authors. So I decided that, I just wanted to change the narrative, and I wanted to add something positive out there. And so this is one of the reasons why I decided to actually create this book. So Journey to Productivity. So to begin with, to start my journey, I had to obviously do some market research. And I kind of had already done market research because I was looking for books to inspire my friends, because some of these mothers were they're like some of my best friends that I grew up with. So I was looking for books to inspire their kids. And so I kind of knew what was out there and what wasn't. And I knew where there was a gap in a certain age range as well. And I thought that age range was quite significant from like 7 upwards, because that's before they go to secondary school. And I thought, this is the age group that I most likely want to try and reach out to. So I decided to get a book out, to write down an outline of what I wanted to put in my book. Because I have been a hair enthusiast and I've read so much on books, I didn't want to bring all that information into one book, because I had to remember my audience, had to remember their age. So what I did was I wrote down all the key things that I thought were like the fundamental principles of healthy hair care. And so I had this in front of me. And then once I had that, I kind of then, in my just being creative, just started thinking, okay, so how can I break this down? How can I put this into chapters? How can I make this digestible for this younger generation? And that's where I began to write my first draft of my manuscript. And once I wrote the first draft, I then rewrote it again. And then what I did, because I have quite a few friends that are actually school teachers, I handed out the manuscript to them, and I got some feedback, and I got some positive feedback that gave me some direction. So they gave me ideas of, okay, this is what's working. Okay, maybe this isn't necessarily working. So then I went back and I rewrote my manuscript again. And then after I rewrote my manuscript, I then decided that it's time for me to give it to my audience to actually see what the children would actually say. And you know how honest children are. And I know some of my friends' kids, they're very brutally honest. So I've just put a few on a couple of slides, but here's an example of some of the feedback I received. So the first one that you're looking at on the left is actually the girl who went to the school where she was like one of 2 Black girls in the actual school. And so we asked her, did you enjoy the book? She says, yes, I loved it. And she said, no, actually, sorry, this isn't the girl, this is someone else. I think this one is, right, this one is the daughter of my colleague. and she's the one that used to. So she talks about extensions in there, but she's the one that had a complex of hair. So we asked her, what did you like about it? And she said, I like that there was some parts that you can have a little laugh and that there are characters to keep this interesting. And then we asked her, what did you like about it? And she said, I loved everything. How did the characters make you feel? She said, intrigued. The characters made me feel more confident in keeping my hair natural. And then we say, is there anything you felt that was missing? And she does go on to say, if there is certain extensions that can make your hair grow, because when my friend takes her hair out, it is really, really long. And what's so interesting about this is because I know the girl, her name's called Adani. Her mum sent me so basically her mum, she always gives me updates, and her mum has told me since Adani had read my book, she has been so creative with her own natural hair, and she still braids hair. So her mum sent me a photo the other day where Adani, I think she's now in secondary school, she's like 11. So when she wrote this, I think she's 10. So I think she's 11 or 12 now. She's in secondary school, and she's always asking her mum about my book when it's coming out. And she braided her mum's hair the other day, and her mum sent me a photo. But she says Adani wears her hair out. She's really, really creative. And she says that literally it was her reading my book and she hasn't looked back since. So she's one of the characters, one of the reasons that kept me going, even when this journey hasn't been the most easiest for me. And then we ask her, what was your favorite chapter? And she says chapter 6, because it told me what to do when I go to sleep and how to protect my hair. And she also says chapter 2, which is to do with the magic free. Chapter 2 is where we talk about moisturizing your hair and how to keep your hair moisturized. And then we asked, what did you read that was most interesting? And again, she says chapter 3, the magic free potion, and how your hair has seasons. How your hair has seasons is chapter 5, where we give the kids some science about the way your hair works, and we use the analogy of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn and winter, so that it's more digestible for them to understand. And then she says, after reading the book, how do you feel about your hair? I felt confident in keeping my hair natural because I have always wanted extensions. On a scale of 1 to 10, she put 1,000. And these are kind of the things. So I would encourage anyone doing a journey, definitely try and get feedback from your audience, because it is very, very important. And also, when you feel like quitting, it's something that you can look back on. So on this one here, we've asked, I think this one is Palumi's niece. I think this is Somji. We ask her, did you enjoy the book? Yes, I did. If you enjoyed the book, please say what you liked about it. She says, I liked the bit when Jasmine said that we should cover our hair when going to sleep. What did you not like about it? She said, I liked all of it. How did the characters make you feel? They made me feel careful. Is there anything you felt was missing? No. Did you have a favorite chapter? I like chapter 5. Again, that was to do with the seasons, on how your hair grows. What did you read that was most interesting? I read about how your hair is like trees and seasons. After reading the book, how do you feel about your hair? I feel worried. Now, this made me laugh because actually Palumi had sent me an audio of her reviewing the book and reading the book, which was so adorable. But I remember her explaining that she felt worried because she actually had her hair in extensions and she felt like her mum had left her hair in extensions for too long. And after reading the book, it made her feel like she was damaging her hair. And this is kind of what we wanted. I mean, she was only 8 years old. I think Somji might be 10 at the time. I'm 10 now, I'm not sure. But this is what we want. The whole point of this book is so that young girls become more mindful, because the thing about natural hair, it's very different from other hair textures, and you have to be mindful about your hair and how your hair is feeling and recognize certain symptoms in your hair. It's not difficult, it's just a completely different way of looking after it. So this is the next one. Sorry, I should have moved her name, but it's another a friend's daughter called Alani, and this is the one who actually went to the school where she was 1 in 2 black girls. And it says, did you enjoy the book? Yes, I really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed the book, please say what you liked about it. I liked how you described the curly, bouncy and marshmallow hair. I also liked the quiz at the end. What did you not like about it? I liked everything. Nothing was bad about it. How did the characters make you feel? The characters made me love my hair more than I did. Is there anything you felt was missing? There was lots of information about taking care of my hair. Did you have a favorite chapter? Yes, chapter 4. Now, chapter 4, actually, that whole chapter is about detangling your hair. And it gives some really good advice. And it's interesting that Alani would like that chapter because her hair texture is actually what some would consider a coarser hair texture, but I would just say it's more tightly coiled. And so the techniques I would have provided in that chapter would have been very useful for her to make hair, detangling her hair a much more enjoyable process. And it's, what did you read that was most interesting? And she says, how you wrote how to tell if your hair is breakage or not. And that's again in chapter 5. So this is an 8-year-old. I think Alani might be 10 now. And you know, it just goes to show you're never too young to start learning these things. After reading the book, How Do You Feel About Your Hair? It made me feel to love my hair more. Would you recommend this book? Yes, it's great. I learned lots about my hair. I can read it whenever I want tips for my hair. And she gave it a 10 out of 10. Now, the one on the right is Faith. She was the first person to actually review. She reviewed the manuscript. She reviewed was actually the roughest draft. So the other girls got a more newer one. And Faith gave it overall, she gave it a 9 out of 10, which really excited me. She was the first person to read my book, and she read it in such a poor state. So I was surprised that I even got that grade. But I think she was the catalyst as well for me sending out a lot of these reviews to different people. So I also gave it to some of my friends who are teachers, and they gave it to some of their students in their classes. So I got quite some good feedback. But yeah, so basically, I won't go through everything that she says, but towards the end, again, she says, it does make me want to love my hair more. And that was the most important thing for me. And that's what's kept me going. Sometimes I'd look around, I'd be like, but so many girls are wearing their hair natural now. Does this book really need to exist? But it does, because even though a lot of girls are wearing their hair natural, it doesn't stop the fact that the representation that they might be seeing out there might not represent how they actually feel inside about themselves. And so if I'm adding and contributing to them seeing positive images and also learning about your hair, because when you learn about how your hair works, it actually helps you to love and appreciate your hair a bit more. So I won't go through all of this. I won't bore you with all of this, and I'll probably maybe in the future once, because the book right now is, we're trying to cross the finish line. We've had some issues. I was hoping to launch the book on the 30th of June, and then I had to push the launch date to the 7th of July, but we've had some printing issues, and I might have to change the distribution company that I'm using. But maybe one day I'll come back and I can do a session on actually self-publishing and the pros and cons of going between traditional publishing and self-publishing. But what I would say is do your research on both. If you decide you want to write a book, do your research on both. Going down the self-publishing route for me had so many pros. I actually have a friend who's gone down the traditional publishing route, and he's a bestseller. And I met up with him once. He now lives in Sweden, but he came down to UK to do some work. So that's the thing. Even though you may decide to do the traditional publishing route, there's still a lot of work that you have to do in pushing out your book. So you might do it because you feel like you'll have a bigger backing, but the truth behind self-publishing and traditional publishing is they have a certain budget for people that are on their books that they know they're going to make money for. And if you don't have a huge audience already, and your book might be not considered, as sellable, they might not invest as much, yet they will get more royalties, and you will still have to do a lot of the legwork as if you are self-publishing anyway. So I decided, what's the point? Let me cut out the middleman. But what I did before making that final decision, I did continue my journey as if I was going to do both. So I was doing the things that I needed to do to self-publish, and I was also doing the things that I would need to do if I was going to publish traditionally. One thing that I did end up doing was finding a mentor. Because I wanted to self-publish, I decided that I would need someone to help me with my manuscript, just to make sure that it was looking as professional as possible, because this is one of the issues I'm having with printing at the moment as well. Just because I'm self-publishing doesn't mean that I just want to hand out anything. I want to hand out quality. And so this was another reason why I found a company called Cornerstone Books, and they work with people that publish both traditionally and self-publishing. And they gave me advice. They say, let's get you a mentor to work with you. And what they did is they put my book out there, and I had a few people that were interested in my book. And I actually chose a lady who was a white British female to help me, because the interesting thing is I had somebody who was more from a background. She was it was another lady. She was Asian, I think. She was from a background where she worked a lot in diversity and representation. But the reason why I chose this lady was because literally I just need someone to make my manuscript look, good. I didn't need somebody who had a background in diversity. I just needed someone who was really good at what they do. And I looked at this woman, her name was called Kate Lee. She was a bestseller as well, because I think she had a book called Santa Claus, a children's book. I saw her website, and it was something that I aspired to. And what was really refreshing is because she read my book and she loved my book. So she made me realize that also, even though my book, the audience is young Black girls, it's something that can also, anyone could read and enjoy. And so I worked with her to get my manuscript up to a certain standard. And then I sent it out to some editors to get it reviewed and stuff like that. So I don't want to book because time's going. So this journey, there's a lot, basically, there's a lot. But you guys can just skim and have a look at some of the stages that I had to go through. Like I said, I'll probably one day, who knows, maybe towards the end of the year or something, but I probably can do a presentation on the actual publishing journey. So this is just a glimpse of what my Instagram page looks like. I try to mix images from my audience. So I have parents that sometimes contact me or at me, or they'll send me messages saying, please can you post a picture of your daughter, or please can you do this? And so I have a lot of that. So I try to mix a little bit of my own branding with the images of my audience's children. And what's really nice is I recently, because I was hoping that the book was going to launch in June, but when I started sending out some promotional material, I was getting so many messages, people signing up to my mailing list, and then people saying to me, when is it coming out? I'm really excited. And also because another tip is, by the way, if you can do a competition, because people always like free stuff, that's another way to get a lot of people to join your mailing list. If you can hand out or give out something free or offer something, free to your audience. But yeah, so here's a little glimpse of the actual Instagram page. Do you want to move on to the next slide? And this is a glimpse of my Facebook page. So I don't have a huge amount of followers on Facebook. On Instagram, I think I have like 977 or 78 followers. And on Facebook, I wasn't really focused on Facebook as much, but what I did is I had set my Instagram feeds to automatically go into Facebook, and I realized that actually I was getting more and more followers. So I think I've got 133 people following at the moment. But what I would say is the interesting thing about Facebook, and I wish I kind of invested more time in it before, was even though I don't have a huge amount of people following or liking my posts on Facebook, when I posted a image that I had posted on my Facebook page in another community on Facebook, I got like 400 and something likes, and I got loads of people following my Instagram page just off the back of me posting. So I think with Facebook, it's about navigating, finding your community, so this particular group I had posted in was called Black Owned Economy. And then there's also some other groups that I'm following on Facebook, which are to do with like mothers and children, or like hair. So yeah, it's just, I think Facebook is quite probably an interesting place, because there's like, it's very clearer to find where your group kind of hangs around, if that makes sense. So yeah, if we move on to the next slide. And yeah, this is basically my details. So my website details, my Instagram details, my Facebook details, just in case any of you are interested. And yeah, it's coming soon. I wish I could have given you a launch date, but I don't have one just yet because I'm going through some challenges at the moment. But I'm really, really excited. I just also wanted to say Palumi is my illustrator. So if you're looking at these illustrations and you think they're beautiful, it's actually Palumi and myself who work together to create them. But Palumi is very, very creative. And I knew from the beginning that I wanted him to illustrate my books. And it hasn't been an easy journey. I've given him, he doesn't have any hair, and he said I made him pull out his hair, or if he had hair, he would have pulled it out. But we've do something beautiful. So I can't wait till it actually launches. So yeah, if we move on to the next slide. Yeah, productivity. So I don't know, Esther, if you want to like come back, we can work together on this side of things.
So I feel like productivity has to have a context, because what does that mean? What do you mean by you're being productive? What is your end goal? What are you working towards? Whose goal are you advancing? You could be very productive at work, but very not productive in your own personal life because you're not working towards anything. There's many people that are busy, and we call them busybodies, and they appear productive, but their work is mainly a deflection of their restless hearts. Some people remain busy as a means of distraction to resolve the chaos in their lives. And I think it's quite important. There's a difference between being productive and being busy. And I think healthy productivity is stewarding the time, the talent, the opportunities that have been given to you. So I found this and I thought this was really, really interesting. And it's productivity principles from the Bible. And productivity principles are accountability, benevolence, diligence, generosity, persistence, and wisdom. This is what all goes into being productive. And accountability is the obligation to be answerable for the responsibility one accepts. And a scripture for that is Matthew 25, verse 19-21. And it talks about after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. And then benevolence, the disposition to do good in the interest of others. Is what you're being productive for only benefiting yourself, or is it benefiting people more than yourself? And the scripture that goes alongside that is our people must learn to do good by meeting the urgent needs of others, then they will not be unproductive. So Jokae and I is an example of we're meeting the need. I'm meeting I think, a very important need in terms of the mental health needs of a nation. So it's so important that what you are doing really benefits other people. And as Nicola says, money comes once you really find your purpose. Diligence is so important, to be diligent, the constant and earnest effort to accomplish the job that you're doing. And a scripture that says that is, go to the ant, you sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Generosity, willingness and liberality in giving and in sharing. And the scripture is, remember this, a farmer who plants only a few seeds will get a small crop, but the one who plants generously will get a generous crop. And persistence, the continual effort to achieve, even though the task is difficult. Jokae is a prime example with all that she's gone through and her persistence. And likewise myself, I know what I've had to go through to get to this point. I know what I've had to sacrifice to get to this point. And wisdom, knowledge coupled with good judgment. And the scripture for persistence is, plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. And the scripture for wisdom is, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. It's okay if your productivity looks different this season. Next one. It's okay if today wasn't your day. And next one. Small progress is still progress. So just to round up, it's just, for me, it's just saying that there isn't one way to be productive, and your productivity might look different during different seasons in life. It's not a race when it comes to speed, but making sure you're always moving forward, planning and implementing until you reach your goal. There will be days that you do not feel as productive. There are seasons that your productivity changes because your focus changes, e.g. marriage and having children. As they say, each step a day moves you closer to your goal. Do not compare your steps to others, as everybody has their own unique journey. If you judge your activities as small or not, the important thing is to be consistent. Mindset. As been said last week, our mind is the most powerful tool to achieve success. And the question that I'm putting to everybody listening to me now is, what stops most people? What stops most people is our minds. Case in point of the parable of the talent. Our mindset is riddled with a bunch of things from our childhood, the world around us, the expectations placed on us, combination of both positive and negative. However, the negative has a funny way of being the loudest voice we hear. The whole, I don't think I'm good enough, like I did. I just didn't think I was good enough. And I've never really thought I was truly good enough, which is funny because I'm a very high achiever, but that's because I'm unconsciously trying to prove how good enough I am, but never satisfied by the good that I end up doing. And I've always got this in my head that, I'm never good enough, I'm not doing well enough. It's really, really important to want to renew your mind and to really challenge those thoughts because they can paralyze you. And as Jesus said, that the reason that took him to the cross was the joy set before him. So what is your joy? Keep your eye on the prize. It's really important that you work before you get motivated or inspired. Really, in all honesty, guys, being inspired and motivated is a falsity. That does happen, but I'm not motivated. I don't get this urge of motivation when I'm waking up 5 a.m. to get to work. I'm not motivated. I just do what I have to do because I know of the joy set before me. I know the task, and I know what I'm being called to do. So just focus on getting started, whether you're motivated or not. It's hard to get started when faced with the enormity of the task. Taking action is what leads to motivation, which in turn leads to more action. Start working and the motivation follows. Get comfortable with being bored. It does sound counterintuitive to call being bored a productive habit, but being comfortable with boredom is important. Working on tasks isn't always enjoyable, and boredom or frustration are what causes us to seek out distractions. Avoid using social media for entertainment as much as possible and get more comfortable with doing nothing. And you can't spend time and go earn more of it. You can't buy it, rent it, or borrow it. Use it wisely and you'll enjoy a myriad of benefits. Squander it and it's gone forever. And as Benjamin Franklin said, one today is worth two tomorrows. Lost time is never found again. Please, guys, recharge. Self-care and rest. It reduces stress. It increases creativity. You'll feel better. It also helps you live longer. You have less wrinkles, and it can strengthen your immune system.
And this slide, as it says, rest if you must, but never quit. As they say, you never fail until you stop trying. And for my journey, it hasn't always been easy. Actually, what was really disheartening for me was the year I wrote the manuscript. Towards the end of the year, that's when I started getting a lot of health symptoms. Sometimes it's really good having a good support network, because I had people that told me, look, it's not about you, it's about the goal. And that's when I had to look back at some of the manuscripts that some of these girls wrote, and I realized that it doesn't matter. It's not about me, it's not about how I look, it's about the actual message. And the information I'm putting in this book is tried. It's something that anyone can implement with Afro hair, and it will bring a result to their hair. So it's something that I know that I don't need to prove myself, and I need to just do. And so I made a decision that I will rest if it gets overwhelming for me, but I will never quit. And as they say, you never fail until you stop trying. So we decided to put together some scriptures. You can probably find so many more scriptures in the Bible, but here are some scriptures on productivity. So Proverbs 14:23 says, "In all toil there is profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty." And I really like this scripture. It also reminded me of a quote by Miles Monroe, where he talks about the wealthiest place on the planet is just down the road. It is the cemetery. In the cemetery is buried the greatest treasures of untapped potential. Sometimes we get excited with ideas and we never allow those ideas to manifest, because we don't plan, or because we let whatever insecurities that we have hold us back. And then Ecclesiastes verse 9:10, it says, "Whatever your hands find to do, do it with your might." And it's so interesting, because for years I was like, what is my purpose? What has God asked me to do? And there's so many different things that I can do, and I've realized that I can see how many different opportunities God's given me, but I think they all sprung off when I started writing the manuscript, and I started realizing actually God has given. Sometimes God will take either your circumstance, what you're going through, or he'll take a hobby or something that you're interested in and allow you to make to profit from it, or to make wealth out of it, and to also be something that actually helps other people. And it's saying that do it with all your might is doing it as if you're doing it to the glory of God. When I decided to write this book, I was thinking of the lives that I would touch, or the young girls that I would inspire. And actually, at the beginning of my book, there's a biblical quote which talks about God creating us in our mother's womb, forming us in our mother's womb. I think it's that scripture, actually, I can't remember. But yeah. So 2 Corinthians verse 9:6, "Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows bountifully will also reap bountifully." So it basically says what it is. So I decided that, you know what, even though my health is a bit of is giving me a lot of challenges, if I don't do this book, it would be like, well, you can't sow if you never try. I'll never be able to reap. I mean, I could launch this book and it doesn't do well, but I can launch this book and it could do extremely, extremely well. So this book is one of many other ideas that I have to sow sparingly. So I encourage anyone, even if you think that it's not a great idea, just do it. You'll be surprised when you just start on a journey. You'll be surprised how God will orchestrate things and put the right people in place to help you with your journey. And then Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, which I think is the most important thing. Overall, just having the right heart behind the work that you do, and I'm sure God will bless that which you're doing. So if we could, the next slide, yeah. So I think Esther touched on it before, but this is the parable of the 10 miners. So this summary is not from scripture, it's actually from wiki, but if you want to read up on the parable of the talents of the miners, you can just find it in Matthew or Luke. But yeah, so it says, a master puts his servants in charge of goods while he is away on a trip. Upon his return, the master assesses the stewardship of his servants. He evaluates them according to how faithful each was in making wise investments of his goods to obtain a profit. If it is clear that the master sought some profit from the servant's oversight, a gain indicated faithfulness on the part of the servants. The master rewards his servants according to how each has handled his stewardship. He judges 2 servants as having been faithful and gives them a positive reward, and to the single unfaithful servant who played it safe, a negative compensation is given. So in addition to like the previous scriptures, which encourage us to be productive and resourceful, this parable is also another reminder that productivity is required from us. The Lord requires our productivity. He has created us as fruitful human beings, and he requires fruitfulness from us because he knows what he's put within us. And for me, this book is one of the many ways which I am trying to administer this. Like I said before, I believe that if I allowed doubt of my health obstacles and circumstances, insecurities to hold me back, I'd be playing it safe, which in the end isn't really safe at all. We can move on to the next slide. And this is the last slide, and this all leads back to the ecclesia. The ecclesia is a governing body made up of resourceful citizens who are productive in different industries, have unique characteristics, talents and gifts, and come from all walks of life. All of these citizens come together to legislate and implement God's laws within our communities, but they all contribute to building the ecclesia and its citizens through using resources and skills acquired from productivity. It is in the best interest of your fellow citizen that you yourself become more productive. By being a productive citizen, you contribute a wealth of knowledge, experience, and wealth to your community. You will be the reason why a community progresses. If we do not progress and stay in the same place and do not stretch ourselves, we will have nothing to offer our community. And that's it.